Kelly. Let me say this about R. Kelly. Regardless of what you think or how you feel, R. Kelly got railroaded, and he actually shouldn't be in jail. Based on the law, R. Kelly shouldn't be in jail, and it might be a chance he gets out.
Welcome to the Only Male Cruise Show, the podcast. I am the only Male Cruise. Be sure to hit the like button, share, subscribe, replay gang, leave a comment. You know I want to hear from you. Copyright disclaimer regarding fair use is in full effect. The views and opinions expressed in this show, you guessed it, they're all mine. Let's go to work. All right. Welcome to the Only Male Cruise Show, the podcast. I am the only male cruise. Be sure to hit the like button, share, subscribe, replay gang, leave a comment. You know I want to hear from you. So today's show, the title, Stephanie, she played herself. So as most people are well aware, there's some motion details from R. Kelly's new attorney. Some conversation is going on. So she submitted some motions. The AUSA, your favorite AUSA up there in Brooklyn, New York, Elizabeth Geddes, has also submitted some documents to the court as well. And basically what she's doing is arguing why the judge should not accept or agree for Kells to either, for Kells to get a retrial. And so we're going to go through, just some highlighted things about or what the AUSA put in her reasoning for why, in her argument for why Kells should not get a new trial. And of course, Kells' attorney, Jennifer Bongine, is arguing that it was an unqualified jury, that the jurors were able to hear extremely inflammatory information about Kells. She actually stated in her motion that she's shocked that the prosecution didn't just go ahead and submit the Surviving R. Kelly docuseries as evidence. That's just how inflammatory and biased the evidence was that the AUSA prosecution put submitted as sparse evidence. So I also want to just throw this disclaimer out here that the information I'm about to share with you it has explicit language in it. So it's not language that I'm making up. It's actually language that was used by the AUSA and that entire team. It came from it's the description of, what happened, what transpired, and why Kells has been charged. So what I will try to do, though, is try to, insert different language to make it clean. But I don't want to take away from the extent or the level of I don't know, I can't even think of the word, really, to be honest with you, the graphicness of it. Okay, so I don't want to diminish that at all, because it's important. It's an important piece of why Kells' attorney Jennifer Bongine is asking for a retrial, because the evidence ultimately was just completely inflammatory. So let me go on and get your popcorn, get your coffee or whatever you own this morning, and let's get into some things. All right, so the lady's name is Stephanie. All right. Stephanie was born in mid-October 1981. She grew up in Chicago and ultimately finished high school at the Chicago Academy of Arts, where she graduated approximately June 1999. And according to my math, she would have been 18 years old at that time. So during the summer of 1998, when Stephanie was 16 years old, she was at the Rock and Roll McDonald's in downtown Chicago with her then boyfriend and two other friends on a double date. While standing herself while standing by herself at the register, a man approached Stephanie and asked her what her age was, and she told him that she was 16. The man then asked if she knew who R. Kelly was, and she said, "Yeah, I do." So the man gestured over to Kelly, who was seated in a nearby booth looking at Stephanie, and told Stephanie that Kelly wanted her to call him. And then the man gave Stephanie a handwritten note with Kel's telephone number on it. So thereafter, Stephanie talked to her friends at the McDonald's about what had occurred, and then she threw the number away as she did not intend to call Kelly at that time. So, approximately 1 year later, in the summer of 1999, when Stephanie was 17, she met Kelly. Now, during that summer, Stephanie worked as a barista at a coffee shop located in a hotel in downtown Chicago, and she was working a 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. shift. During a shift, a coworker informed her that R. Kelly was at the Nike store just around the corner from the hotel on Michigan Avenue, also known as the Magnificent Mile. So Stephanie decided that she would go to the Nike store to see if Kelly would remember her. Now, that's a red flag for me already, because why would Kels remember you a year later? Why would he remember you? But nevertheless, she went to the store to see if Kels would remember her. And she wanted to ask Kels if he would listen to her friend, Catherine, sing. Now, Catherine was Stephanie's classmate at the Chicago Academy of the Arts, specializing in music, and at the time, she was an aspiring singer. Now, when Stephanie arrived at the Nike store and was walking in, Kels was walking out. And Stephanie asked Kels if he remembered her, and he said he did. So Stephanie told Kelly she wanted to ask him a question, and he invited her to walk with him to his car, which she did. And Kels invited Stephanie into his car. Now, inside the car, Stephanie asked Kelly if he would meet her friend Catherine, who had a great voice, and potentially help Catherine with her career. And Kelly told Stephanie he thought he could arrange that, but he'd like to get to know her, and that he also likes to cuddle, and would she be okay with that? And Stephanie responded, yes. So Kelly then gave Stephanie his phone number and told Stephanie to call him, which she ultimately did. So approximately a week or two later, Stephanie saw Kelly again at his recording studio near the Cabrini Green neighborhood. Now, Stephanie was bussed into the studio, and one of Kelly's employees brought her up to a room on the second floor. And that employee told Stephanie, just stay right here, wait for Kels, and then that employee left. So Stephanie waited for Kels alone in a room for several hours until he came in. The two conversed for a period of time and ultimately had intercourse in that room that day. Now, during their conversation, among other things, Kelly told Stephanie that he wanted her to call him Daddy. So following this encounter, Stephanie continued to see Kelly for approximately 6 months, mostly at his studio. Kelly had intercourse with Stephanie essentially every time they saw each other. At various times, Stephanie would be picked up and driven to the studio by one of Kel's employees and driven home by an employee. Now, during their interactions, Kel's was one of two ways. He was either very nice and charming, jovial, or he was very controlling and intimidating. He'd raise his voice at Stephanie, and he could put the fear of God in her very quickly. Now, Stephanie's sexual interactions with Kelly were humiliating. And this is how Stephanie described those interactions. He would be very specific in how he wanted me to be. He would put me in positions that he wanted me to be in. He would tell me that he wanted me. He'd tell me to get undressed, and then he would position my body in a way, and he would then say, all right, I'm going to go. And when I come back, I want you to be just like this. So I would just be completely naked with my butt in the air and just like waiting there for him to come and have his way, sometimes for hours. So when Kelly returned to the room and Stephanie was not in the position he told her to be in, Kelly became very disappointed and angry, yelling at her. Kelly also uh, often made a deposit on Stephanie's face and instructed her on what sounds she should make during sex. Now, on one occasion, after watching the defendant play a basketball game, Stephanie and Kelly went inside the passenger portion of an SUV. The front driver and passenger seats were occupied by Kelly's employees. And while inside, Kels told Stephanie that he wanted her to give him oral sex. Stephanie did so, but it was, in her words, really disgusting because he had just played basketball for an hour. And so she was really ashamed while she was doing it and tried to do it quickly and get it done. Kelly stopped her and said that he needed her to make noises while she was getting the work in, uh, performing oral sex, because he wanted the other people in the car to know that she was giving him oral sex. Within the first month or two of Stephanie having met Kelly, Stephanie again asked Kelly if he would meet her friend Catherine. Kelly agreed to meet Catherine. Stephanie and Stephanie's mom went to his studio for that purpose. At the studio, Catherine performed a song for Kelly, and Kelly indicated that Catherine could sing, but he seemed unimpressed and quickly dismissed the three of them as he was not thrilled about Stephanie's mom being there. On either the first or second occasion that Stephanie had visited Kel's studio, Kels asked Stephanie how old she was, and Stephanie responded that she was 17. Now, remember, in the beginning, Stephanie, according to the AUSA, Stephanie was 16. So a year has transpired, and now Stephanie is 17. So Kels asked Stephanie, how old are you? And she said, oh, wait. On either the first or second occasion that Stephanie visited Kel's studio, which would have been at the beginning of the year, he asked Stephanie her age, and she said she was 17. So Kelly ended up videotaping Stephanie engaging in sexual conduct with him. And Stephanie had agreed to meet Kelly at his recording studio and was waiting for him in a room at that studio when he called her and told her he was on his way to pick her up and wanted her to make a video of them having sex. So thereafter, Kelly drove Stephanie to his house in Lincoln Park, Illinois. And upon their arrival at the house, Kelly quickly got a video camera and instructed Stephanie to come around the walkway at the entrance and began filming as she entered the frame, instructing Stephanie to undress and walk over to the sofa. At this point, Kels was holding the video camera, which was a large VHS video camera. After Stephanie walked over to the sofa, as Kelly had instructed her, Kelly came up from behind and started having sex with her. At that point, Kels had placed the video camera on the table in front of Stephanie. Now, Stephanie was completely naked, and the video camera was facing her and was recording. Now, and Kelly was getting it from the back. So Kelly then indicated that he would retrieve a toy, and he wanted Stephanie to work with the toy while they were having sex. Now, Kelly did put the toy in Stephanie's mouth and continued to have intercourse with her from the back. While this occurred, the VHS video camera remained right in front of Stephanie, facing her while she was completely naked and while the camera was still in record mode. So in approximately October 1999, Stephanie traveled to Orlando, Florida for a long weekend to see Kelly, and her friend Catherine also accompanied her. Kels was recording music in Orlando and had previously asked Stephanie to meet him in Orlando and said that she could bring Catherine with her. So Kels paid for the travel, and one of his employees actually made the travel arrangements. And upon their arrival in Orlando, Stephanie and Catherine were taken to a furnished rental house in a cul-de-sac. And they stayed there for a long time, a few days, without any contact from Kels. And so they just sat there in the house alone, and they did not leave the house at all. And if you notice, it doesn't say they couldn't leave the house, and it doesn't say Kels was there. It just says that they were there alone, and they sat there and they didn't leave. Now, on the last day of their trip, Kels showed up at the house and took Stephanie to a recording studio. At the studio, Kels told Stephanie that he wanted to record her giving him oral sex, and then he proceeded to do just that. This time, Kels used a handheld video camera, smaller than the one that he'd used when he had video recorded Stephanie up there in Lincoln Park, Illinois. What Kels wanted to do was record her in the act of oral sex. And once again, Kels made a deposit on Stephanie's face, and he didn't let Stephanie wipe it off, instead telling her that she had to walk down the hall to another bathroom to wipe her face. Stephanie felt humiliated. Thereafter, Kelly drove Stephanie back to the house as she cried in the car. She and Catherine then returned to Chicago. So following this trip, Stephanie did not want to see Kelly anymore. She felt used and humiliated and degraded, and she just didn't want to be abused anymore. Stephanie did, however, see Kelly again to stay in good graces because she wanted Kelly to give her the sex tapes that he'd made of her. She discussed getting the videotapes from Kels or having them destroyed in person with Kelly on 2 occasions, but Kelly didn't do it. And thereafter, Stephanie called Kelly and asked him to again give her the tapes or destroy them, and Kels suggested he would consider it if she came to see him. However, Stephanie concluded that the 2 previous in-person discussions that she'd had with Kelly, he had no intention of doing what she asked him to do, so she didn't go to see him. That was the last time that Stephanie spoke with R. Kelly. And during the course of her time with Kelly, Kels made clear to Stephanie that she was not permitted to speak to other men. On one occasion, she was at a Houston's restaurant in Chicago, and Kels and 2 rappers were at the table with her. And apparently, Kels referred to these 2 rappers as Boo and Gotti. So Stephanie was not allowed to speak to Boo or Gotti during the meal, but she overheard Kelly tell them that he likes young girls and that people make such a big deal about it, but it really isn't a big deal because even look at Jerry Lee Lewis. He's a genius and I'm a genius, and we should be allowed to do whatever we want because of what we give to the world. So here's the thing. How do you approach a superstar? And you're approaching the superstar according to the testimony, Stephanie's testimony, or her statement. You approach this superstar so that you could ask him if he would do something for a friend. You are asking for a friend. So how do you go from asking for a friend to putting and investing all of your body into the situation? And this is why I feel like this is not a true and accurate account of how the relationship between this young lady, Stephanie, and Kels, how it started. Because when you ran into him in the store, you went there on purpose to see if he remembered you. Why would he have remembered you? And I wish that the AUSA would have gone into detail about why that was even an expectation. Because to be honest with you, it seems like she's leaving something out. Because there's no way why is Kels going to remember you out of a whole year later? That's red flag number 1 for me. But okay, we'll just give you the point though, Steph. So then you go out, you sit with Kels in the car, and you tell him, hey, I want you to hook up with my friend and see if you can help her out and get into the game. And according to her statement, Kels said, well, yeah, I could probably do it, but I want to get to know you and I like to cuddle. And she says, okay, but I thought you were approaching him to ask about your friend, Stephanie. So you're in the position right now where you're bartering. You're about to barter cuddling so that your friend Catherine can get a shot at becoming a singer? So this is suspect. The bottom line is Kells, um, Kells really was railroaded. And just like Jennifer Bongine, Kell's new attorney, has stated, there's a lot of evidence that they included in this Brooklyn trial that the jury should have never heard. And if I was sitting on the jury and if this testimony had come across, or I'd had access to this statement, that's the first thing I'm going to ask. If when you asked them, hey, can you look out for a friend of mine? And if it starts to turn to, well, yeah, I can do it if you break me off, then now I'm faced with making a decision. I'm either going to break you off because I want to, or I'm going to break you off because in doing so, I'll be able to give my friend a shot. But where's the friend at in all this? It just doesn't make sense, y'all. It's not making sense. But hey, leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. That's it. That is the podcast. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, Replay Gang, leave a comment. You know I want to hear from you. And until next time, we will see ya when we see ya. Welcome to the Only Male Cruise Show, the podcast. I am the only Male Cruise. Be sure to hit the like button, share, subscribe, Replay Gang, leave a comment. You know I want to hear from you. Copyright disclaimer regarding fair use is in full effect. The views and opinions expressed in this show, you guessed it, they're all mine. Let's go to work.